So I think we would all agree, not the ideal season for the Chicago Bulls. I don't think I picked them to make the playoffs, but I definitely didn't predict that they'd be this bad. And if they would have gotten the 7th or 8th seed, I wouldn't have been shocked, really. Especially given what's happened with the Nets and the Magic just haven't been very good this season. But of course, not the case. And I think the positives that you can take away from this Chicago season are Wendell Carter. Even then, you're a little concerned about 2 years in a row of him having bigger than, small injuries. But even so, he looks good. I've compared him to Horford before. I'm going to stick to that. We'll see where the jumper is, but he's a good player. Chris Dunn, his defense took another step, and I think they should hold on to him. 1, because I don't think it's going to take much to keep him, and 2, I still think he can be kind of their Marcus Smart type of a guy, if I can just keep Celtics references going. And I think at this point you got to view LaVine as a positive. Yeah, he's still got holes in his game, his defense and his playmaking, and we can question how good of a leader he is, but I mean, he puts up 25 a game on some efficient shooting, 57% true shooting. Not a lot of guys are going to give you that much scoring on that good of efficiency, so kudos to LaVine. And Kobe White has been coming on a bit lately, making a lot of shots, looking very confident from 3. That's all about it. The biggest 2 questions are still, what the hell's up with Lauri Markkanen, and just everything related to Jim Boylen. I mean, I don't think there's a single non-Bulls executive who thinks Jim Boylen is the right fit for this team. I mean, we have seen so many stories already of the players not liking him. There was a thing earlier in the season where all the players refused to even acknowledge him after some big play or whatever. And the dude's X's and O's are terrible. And I think we can blame him a bit for Markkanen's struggles because Markkanen just wasn't getting the ball as much. They were using him as kind of a spot-up guy. And yeah, he has that part of his game, potentially. His shooting has not been as good as was advertised, we'll be honest. But, he needs the ball a little bit. Plus, he's got some ball-handling abilities. He's not just like a Ryan Anderson type of guy, Now, at the same time, Markkanen should probably be a little more aggressive. This conversation has been had. I don't want to dive into it too much. So, what do the Bulls do next? Because, and also one other thing is Otto Porter. He missed basically the whole season. He's back now. Effectively doesn't mean anything. They were noticeably better with him after the trade last year. So hopefully he can pick up where he got started next season, I guess. Having the ball a little bit more, not just being a off-ball guy, even if he can be a very good shooter for you. So, yeah, like I was saying, this team is at a weird spot right now where I could picture many different things happening. Okay, I could picture them firing Jim Boylen, which I 100% think they should do, but I could also picture them keeping him because he's got an extension, and I don't know, it just seems to be the way Garpax kind of operates, where they kept Tibbs around to the point where it was kind of like this elephant in the room thing. Did a similar thing with Hoiberg, although even then you could argue they should have kept Hoiberg for this team, because even if we can argue about how good Hoiberg was, he's certainly better than Boylen. And I don't know, I think part of me really believes they're going to keep Boylen around, because if they were going to get rid of him, wouldn't have all the signs have been there this previous season? So if they're going to keep him around, then I don't know how drastic of a difference next year is really going to be, even if this team is healthy. I mean, if guys are going into the season not being confident in their coach and the game plan, and that could bleed into the culture, then that's not great. But if you're going to fire him, who are you going to get? I mean, Kenny Atkinson just became available. Okay. I'm sure there's a myriad of college coaches and assistants around the league who you could take a look at. But do we trust Gar Forman and John Paxson to make a smart basketball decision? No, at this point, let's just be honest. But perhaps there's such an obvious signing that they would do it and it'd be a no-brainer. But they would have to actually fire Boylen to do that. I guess another question would be, If they view Zach LaVine as a leader, would they listen to him on that sort of thing? I doubt they'd listen to anybody else. But then we get to Zach LaVine. Is it insane to believe that Zach LaVine would get traded this offseason? Probably. But the NBA is weird. And LaVine's contract is suddenly not very long. He's got 2 years left. I mean, if this team sucks at the deadline next year and LaVine starts doing the whole get me out of here thing, you think the Bulls would do it? Yeah, potentially. Now, they could easily just say, no, we're going to keep you because we have nothing else going for us. Fine. But, again, it's the NBA, and who really knows? Other interesting things, Otto Porter is now on an expiring. Thad Young as well as Satoransky are on effectively expirings because their 2022 contracts are non-guaranteed. You've got Felicio, who has one of the dumbest contracts in the NBA. That's finally going to be an expiring next season. So you've got opportunities to make moves here, and you can put some salaries together, and perhaps you can get somebody. However, the Bulls only have their own draft picks. They don't have any extras, and I really don't think this team should be giving up any of their own firsts. So that's going to make it a little tougher. I mean, to me, what this team could really use is like a playmaker, but I don't know where they're getting that guy. I mean, maybe Mike Conley's stock is so low you could just trade for him or something with these expirings. Granted, this team already has a bunch of guards, and I would be suggesting they get another one, but I don't know, man. The offense is not great, and you assume if you just have a natural passer in there, I think it could make things make a little more sense, kind of like what happened with Phoenix this year with Rubio and the effect it had on Devin Booker. Perhaps that could happen with LaVine, but again, I don't really know where that guy is in the league. And I guess they were hoping for Satoransky to be that guy, and I mean, he's a nice player, but that didn't totally flip the switch. Another interesting thing is with Kobe White playing so well lately, there's going to be pressure to put him in the starting lineup, and we'll just have to see how they decide to go about that one. The other thing that I want to bring up, though, is there's a chance the Bulls don't really do anything this offseason. And I guess that's kind of the heart of this whole thing I have, thinking about these guys right now, is how desperate is this front office going to be to do something because of how disappointing this year was? Or are they just going to be like, yeah, you know what? We had some injuries. Markkanen had a down year. We'll bounce back. It's fine. And then what happens when we're 30 games into next season and then they're 13-17, because that could definitely happen. I mean, it's just, how much does the front office buy into this team? How much do they buy into Zach LaVine? Do they think Markkanen is really the guy to build around even if he wasn't good this season? I don't know. And I think depending on how they feel, that could drastically affect the way this offseason is. Because again, given all these expirings they have coming up now, they could make moves even without a lot of draft picks or expendable picks. But there's also a chance they don't do much. They just draft someone. I don't know much about the draft right now. And then they just kind of ride it out that way. In terms of free agency, they potentially could do something if they found a way to get off of some money. I don't totally know how they'd do it. I mean, the salary cap is going to be $115. They're going to have their pick, and they are probably, they might re-sign Chris Dunn. I don't really know, so that might just fill up all their space right there. But potentially something. I guess you could still use your mid-level, because I don't think that would take them over the luxury tax, those two moves. Denzel Valentine is a small decision that they need to make, which, I don't know, he might end up on a different team, and I don't think the Bulls would be too beat up about it. Although I could see him showing up on a different team and suddenly being one of the better shooters in the league. And my Celtics are desperate for a shooter off the bench, so there's that, I guess. Yeah, this team's very interesting, and I just want to see what they decide to do. Could be a lot, could be a little. There's a chance that they just nailed the draft pick and it fixes all of their problems. We'll have to see.